All right, welcome back. This is the podcast where we talk about all things real estate. We've had a number of awesome guests over the last couple of weeks, from top mortgage lenders in our regions, in our markets, top producers in our markets, real estate agents, and then other business owners generally, talking about how to scale and grow businesses. Today we've got another awesome guest, Amber Kocek, who is one of our top producers and has a really cool story. And we're just going to kind of let the conversation flow and hear from her on how she's got into the industry, how she's grown her business to be a very consistent top producer in our market in Omaha, which is a big competitive market. And then we'll probably hear from her on the state of the current market, which has been really up and down over the last couple of months. And we're still pretty optimistic about it over the next 6 months, but we'll kind of get into that.
Absolutely.
So first, just introduction-wise, how'd you get into business? What's your real estate experience been like? How long have you been doing it? Just kind of let you jump in.
Perfect. Amber Kocek, I got in the business about 15 years ago. Yeah. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and we had just bought a house. And I thought, this seems like a really fun career, showing people houses every day. This seems like a lot of fun. So I decided to take the classes and kind of slowly worked my way to get my license. I got licensed right before we had our fourth kiddo. And I knew that my kids at the time were going to be number one. So I kind of wanted to just slowly build my business over the years. And that's kind of exactly what I did. As my kids got older, I felt like my business it kept growing. And by the time that, they were in grade school, middle school, high school, I was getting busier and busier with real estate. So it kind of worked out the way I wanted it to. Yeah.
Which I want to dive into at some point. We can tailor that later in the conversation, but I think that's a really important point that you just made, which is you were doing something right over those 15 years to grow a really successful business. I'll let you keep going, but I want to mark that in my notes.
Absolutely. So I've been, like I said, it's been 15 years. So 15 years later, I would say I'm at a good spot. I've learned a lot over the past few years. And, this is a business where it's a learning experience. Every transaction, every day, something new is popping up, which I love because it kind of keeps you on your toes, keeps you growing, keeps you learning.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, even if you think about this market as a listing agent or as a seller compared to even a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we're still seeing things sell quickly, but it's like all bets are off.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a little different. Things are still selling quickly, but you really have to know how to price a house right now, because if it's overpriced, it's not going to sell, it's going to sit. Right. And, I think staging too is a huge factor in how quickly things are moving. You got to make the house look good.
The whole presentation of it, making sure the house is presentable, and then pricing, which draws that first wave of buyers in. If you price it too high, you have far fewer buyers than you expected to have and than your competition has. And if you price it too low, you end up $45,000 over asking price, and you're like, maybe we were a little too low.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to be kind of careful. You don't want to go in too low. You definitely don't want to go in too high. So there's an art to it for sure.
So in your career, starting from the ground up and kind of going back over that 15 years, putting yourself in the shoes of a new agent that might be watching this, what was one or two of the most impactful things that maybe aha moments where you said, okay, I can do this. This is something that was a big hurdle to get over, and now that I understand it, I'm growing and I'm here. Yeah,
I would say there were a couple aha moments. At one point, I was going to quit. I can't even remember what year it was that I was into it, but I was just at a point where I was like, do I really want to keep doing this? I can't remember what was all going on, but it just seems like there was a lot going on in my life. And at the time, this was before 2020. This was well before 2020. So the market it was tough.
Right.
Like it was tough time to be a new agent. So actually, at that time, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go all in. So not only did I not quit, but I decided to do Nebraska Realty's 100% program. So it was a huge risk. Like I was going to be spending money every
and maybe
month.
explain that just for not necessarily the consumer, but for the agent that doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
It's a huge step up from being on a conventional split where you're not out.
Yeah, so there was on the conventional split, there was no risk for me because if I didn't sell a house, I wasn't out anything. You know, Nebraska Realty took a certain percentage of my commission when I did sell a house. But then the 100% plan, I'm paying into Nebraska Realty every month. So if I don't produce, I'm losing money.
Right.
So I decided, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to like force myself to really go all in. And I think that was a huge stepping stone for me. Like I had skin in the game, so
Yep.
it changed things. And then the second thing that really helped me was I got a coach. I decided, again, I want to go all in even more. I want to build my business even bigger. So I got a coach and...
Say that one a little louder for the people in the back. How important is a coach? And
I got a coach. I mean, super. That is what turned my business around. And it wasn't necessarily that she was holding me accountable and like breathing down my neck or calling me if I wasn't doing things. It was more for me. And again, you got to know yourself, like how you work. For
Right.
me, that may not have worked the best, but for what she did for me was got the systems in place, gave me a plan for the year that I planned out day by day, month by month, what I was going to do for the whole year.
Right.
That was huge. And then I think along with that, kind of changing my mind or, you know, the way I thought about things, about being a giver and knowing that what I put out in slices will come back in loaves. So just really like giving to my clients, my friends, like being a giver and knowing that, you know, I'm not just doing it because I think something's going to come back,
Right.
but knowing like that's how I want to present myself. And that has worked out really well as well.
I think that's a really good point. And this has actually been a theme from at least 3 or 4 of the people that we've had on this, mentorship and coaching. Being the most important thing when you're starting out.
Yes.
And it's because success leaves clues. And if you're just willing to shadow those people that have been there and done that, you're going to skip months, if not years,
Yeah.
of not wasting time, but learning the same steps that could be taught to you a lot quicker.
Yes. And the other part of that is even more important, is being willing to actually do the work.
Right.
If you're not willing to do the work and put in the time and be consistent, you might as well
Right.
maybe not do
And
this.
it's a theme of delayed gratification that we've talked also a lot about. And I think
Yes.
it is tough for new agents because you see all these lead generation tools and you say, okay, I'm getting into the business. I want to make X amount of money on a monthly basis starting now.
Yep.
It just doesn't happen that way.
No,
It doesn't.
it does not. No, yeah, you have to be consistent. You have to be okay, like spending some money, doing some things today, knowing that tomorrow you may get, you know, a
Right.
payback out of it. So,
To your point about dishing out value, knowing that, hey, this may be, back to delayed gratification, this may not be something that generates business for me instantly,
yeah.
but over the next 6 months, more likely year, 2 years, this is going to pay me back. Do you have any examples off the top of your head of clients or someone that gave you business that you weren't expecting it and it came
Yeah.
back in awesome ways?
I would say sometimes it's the people that you think don't like you are the ones that surprise you and give you the most business. So I would say it's those people that you know, they don't engage with you maybe a whole lot and you're like, man, are they even like reading anything I send them? Or are they even opening anything up? A lot of times they are. They're there. They're just maybe a little quieter. So I would say don't forget about those people.
Yeah.
Keep after them.
Right.
And again, just knowing that what you're doing today, you're planting seeds today for tomorrow. So, you know, I stay in front of my folks. I would say 98% of my business is referrals. So, which is nice because then I can sprinkle in some other fun things, knowing that, you know, a good base of my clients they're going to be calling me, which
Right.
is nice.
Right. And we can jump straight into that piece of it. I know we talked a little bit at the beginning, but so 98% of your business is referrals. That doesn't happen overnight. That takes
No.
years to build upon. When did you finally get to that point, and what are you doing keep that consistency.
Yeah.
And maybe gear it towards, again, the new agent who thinks that they're going to come into this business and overnight start to have that, myself included. You have to learn over 2 or 3 years that, hey, first year and a half, 2 years is all leads.
Yes.
You may have a sphere of influence, and you should be targeting that sphere of influence, doing all the same things that a top producer like you is doing. But your referrals are going to be maybe 2 or 3 in the first or second year, and then maybe 6 or 7 in year 3 or 4. And then you start to build upon that and get more clients. We'll kind of let you jump in and share your experience.
Yeah, I would say it started turning around maybe 5-7 years ago, but I from the get-go, my sphere of influence, that was who I kind of focused on. And I just tried to continually build on that. So if you're not building your database, it's shrinking. So you need to be adding people to your database. So I tell most new agents that I meet, like, hey, you got to have a database. Like, that is your business. That's where you start. And every time you meet somebody at an open house, every time you get a sign call, like, you need to be adding those folks to your database. And not only that, like, and then do something with it. Like, are you sending them an item of value? Are you reaching out to them? Like, what are you doing with your database? Because again, you have to stay in front of these people. So building that, and it takes time. Building your database takes time. So if you are a newer agent, bring your patience, because it is going to take a minute. If you, aren't comfortable on the phone calling people, you're going to have to figure out, what do you like to do? Maybe you like to door knock. Go do that. Maybe you like to send handwritten letters and notes. Do that. Like, do what you like to do, because if you don't like to do it, you're not going to do it.
It's
so
gonna be
find
really hard.
something that you like and just go after it.
Going to one of your points that you just made, because you do have to stay in front of people. So
yeah.
I love that you said, if you're not growing your database, you're shrinking. I don't think there is an in-between, because the people are going to forget about you, even if you don't forget about them, even if they're in your database. If you're not reaching out to them after 6 months, they don't remember who you are.
Exactly.
They may know you, but they don't remember that, hey, this is the real estate expert in my area. Yeah,
when it's time for them to buy or sell, they're going to go to the last person they talked to, and everybody knows about 10 agents. So
right. And everyone has that story of an awesome buyer that they worked with that sold their house 3 years later with someone else.
Yes.
So this is probably geared towards the new agent, but again, the point we made was, if you get into this business, it starts with lead generation and it finishes with referral building. Yes. Hopefully at that point, lead generation drops off a little bit, because you're focused all on your sphere, who's going to feed you business because they know and trust you.
Yes.
So even on day one as a new agent, and it probably takes 6 months to get some of these processes in place, but what are the things that are easy to do on a monthly basis that provide value to your sphere and don't take a ton of time, but make sure that you're the name that they think about when that referral comes up, or when
good
they
question.
think about selling?
I feel like as a new agent today, there are so many resources, especially at Nebraska Realty, that you can use. So I would say download that monthly newsletter, print it off, maybe tweak it to make it yours, and just send that out to your folks. It can be really simple, but just have something that has your name on the envelope, maybe your face and your name on the envelope, but have your name on the envelope, I always say, because then as they're putting it in the trash can, they at least see your name on there, and that is going to remind them who you are, and maybe they'll open it up. But at least it'll have your name on it. They can see that.
And one more thing, adding on to that, make sure it adds value.
Yes.
In at least some way. And then just connecting the dots here for some people that don't know how impactful referral marketing is. Even if they throw it in the trash can, it doesn't mean that they don't like you. It just means that it's not relevant to them at this point in time. How many times have you thrown away a mailer or gotten an email from your favorite brand and you put it in the trash can, and then 6 months later, after the 50th newsletter that they send you, you say, okay, I'm ready to buy that sweatshirt, or I'm ready to...
That's so true.
It's timing.
It's all about timing. So download the newsletter, get that sent out. I always, in the beginning, I was stalking people on Facebook. If it was their birthday, if it was an anniversary, I sent them a handwritten note card. So my goal every week was to send out 10 handwritten note cards. So now I have so many note cards that I write out on a monthly basis, just because I have all of my clients' birthdays and anniversaries on my calendar. So I send out all of my clients cards.
That's amazing.
For their home anniversaries, for their birthdays, and then anything else that I see that's relevant.
So how long have you been doing that?
A long time.
Years?
I would say, yeah, it's been years.
So I think that's important to point out here, and it's amazing, is it's not going to happen in 6 months.
No.
It's going to happen in years.
Yes.
So if you're doing a newsletter, do it for years. Have the mindset that you got to do it for years. Even social media. If you're going to post on social media,
yes,
maybe you do go viral, or maybe you get some followers right away, but it takes years to build a consistent, something that works, whatever it is.
That people will trust you. I just literally met with the seller the other day, and she said she's been watching me on social media for a very long time. And now they're getting ready to sell, and she reached out, but she was watching me for a long time. So it's not like she watched one of my videos and she called me up.
Right.
It takes time to build that trust for people to get to that point where they want to reach out to you.
Right.
And again, you have to be consistent. I feel like social media is a little bit slower. I think you have to do it. But again, know that it's going to take time to build up
Right.
The trust factor there.
Right. And I don't know if you would agree with this, but even if it's social media or sending out handwritten notes, either way, it's about putting value out into the world so that they think of you. And
Yes.
so if you're unsure of what those value proposition activities look like, we have tons of masterminds, tons of marketing classes on a weekly basis. It is tough in the beginning because you don't know exactly what you need to be doing. And I don't know that there's a wrong answer. It's
I
consistency. You're going to learn what not to do. I can guarantee you that.
Yes.
Even if something's not working, you're going to find out what is. So
Yeah, and you can always tweak things. Like if you try something and you don't think it's working, try something else. But I would also say try and stick with things for a while to see if it's actually going to work.
Right.
You know, you can't try it one time. I did one open house and I didn't get a buyer, so I'm not ever going to do another open house again. Like that's not the way it works. The
Right.
more you do something, the more your chances are that you're
Right.
going to get something back out of it.
that's one more. And I like to give real world examples for the new agent that might be listening, because that happened to me plenty of times where you hold an open house and you have 0 people walk through and you say, okay, I don't know if I'm going to do any more of these.
Yep.
And I will just say from personal experience, I've had probably 2 or 3 months where I've had 0 people come through open houses. And on month number 3 or open house number 10, you have 6 people walk through and you
Yes.
get 2 buyer leads.
Yes.
And someone calls you 2 days later saying, hey, I think we're ready to do this.
Yeah.
So you just got to do it.
You got to do it. You got to just keep at it. Again, you just got to keep at it because sooner or later it's going to pay off.
Right.
So, yeah. And I think too, just, adding value, giving, I give a lot of stuff away. I give away just random gifts every month to my clients. So, and I'm an open book. My business, I'm a pretty open book about what I do and why I do it and how I do it. So if anyone ever has questions, they are more than welcome to reach out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I do think that it's cool to put value and share what you do, because the one person that's on here listening that's actually going to do it is you're in the 1%.
Yeah.
You can share all the information that you have. You could be like Amber and have all the answers, and only one out of 100 is actually going to implement those answers. So
yeah.
Very cool. To transition away from that and maybe gear it towards how you scaled your business. So we've talked a lot about, in the beginning, being a new agent, what that looks like, and even being at the point where you almost quit. Now, fast forwarding a couple years, 5 or 6 years, getting to the point where you're starting to see the business grow, the referral business grow. Let's talk about scaling into a team and into partnerships and into just kind of that leveling up section of your business. What did that look like?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I think another big turning point for my business is when I added an assistant. So she kind of took all the load off of me sending out, I do what are called pop-by mailers. So I send out mailers every month. I send out a newsletter every month. So she kind of took over some of those duties and freed me up to do some other things. That was huge.
And why is that so important?
Because I can't do I want to do everything, but I can't do everything. And I think as agents, we're a little type A and we want control over everything, and it's hard to relinquish that control. But you're not going to be able to scale. You're not going to be able to build your business if you don't do it.
Right.
So
you will never level up if you can't increase your hourly rate,
yes,
so to speak, in
yes.
terms of you notice that was an activity that's repeatable and it's easy and it's important.
Yes.
But you should be out talking to clients, educating the marketplace on really big picture ideas. This is something that you could easily hire
Yes.
for.
And she does a better job than I could ever do. So it was a win-win.
Yeah.
And then the second part was hiring a transaction coordinator. Again,
That's a huge one.
You know, you start to get busy. You don't want to be dropping the ball somewhere. That could be detrimental. So I have Carla is my transaction coordinator. She's amazing. She keeps everything in line. She keeps my clients. She communicates with them really well, and just because I think that's the other thing. Like, people want to know, well, what's happening next?
Right.
What do we need to do next? Like, they want to know. So she does a great job of keeping them on track.
That's awesome. That's a really big one too. And I think a lot of agents in that kind of midpoint of they're about to level up, they just haven't done it yet. Myself included, it took me 2.5 years of not being in the business, but being on the fence about a transaction coordinator before I finally did it. And I'm just kind of parking that range, but it was just an internal battle of, I don't want to spend a couple $100 per contract for someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it was, regardless of whether whatever the fee is, whether you're arguing about $200 or $300 or $350, if your transaction coordinator is good at what they do, the stress that takes off your plate is worth it 1,000-fold.
Absolutely, because there was plenty of times where I would wake up in the middle of the night in a panic, like, oh my God, I forgot to send somebody this addendum, or I forgot to get this question answered. So just having somebody that's kind of got your back is well worth it.
Right, and that's just another one of those things that if managing your contracts, when you start to get to that point where you have a few buyers or sellers on a monthly basis, if managing your contracts is taking 3, 4, 5 hours a month, or even 1 or 2 hours a week, hire a transaction coordinator, get that time back in your day.
Yes.
Plugging a book that it's probably been one of the most impactful books in my last couple of years. And there's a lot of those, but this is specifically for real estate agents trying to build their business. If you're in that kind of middle ground of doing 5 or 6 million a year, you're trying to level up and it feels really difficult. It's called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Shout out Dan Martell. He's got a YouTube channel as well, and he does a really awesome job of sharing that value. That was like the most eye-opening book for me in terms of one of the examples they gave in the book is he was driving through a neighborhood with $1 million houses, and it was 7 p.m. at night, and there's, again, all these $1 million houses with huge lawns, and there was a guy mowing his lawn at 7 p.m. at night. And maybe he loves doing it, but the point that Dan made was, you have $1 million, hire someone to mow your lawn. Yes.
I couldn't agree more. I think for 2 reasons. It's nice to hire someone and give them a job.
Right.
You know, so I think that in and of itself is amazing.
And to your point, someone probably better than you.
Yes. Yeah. They know how to mow the lawn, or they know how to paint. You know, like, hire somebody to paint your house. And it frees up your time to do what you need to do. So, like, I hired a house cleaner several years ago. I hate cleaning anyway, so.
Right.
But man, the amount of time that I no longer have to spend cleaning the toilets in my house is awesome. You know, again, I should be doing other things. I should be calling my clients. I should be handwriting notes to my clients.
Right.
I should be out there getting new clients and meeting new people to add to my database. That's things that only I can do.
Right.
So that's what I should be doing. I should be letting other people handle the things that they can do.
Exactly. Other ways that you leveled up or that you scaled up as you started to grow, we've mentioned transaction coordinating, which is just a staple of beginning to see that success in your business, hiring the right people to help keep the lights on during the day so that you can focus on the things that matter. Is there anything else that's been, again, going back to the aha moments, things as you leveled up that maybe you learned from a top producer, or that you noticed other people doing, and then once you started implementing it, it was huge?
Yeah, I would say, again, back to kind of what I've already said, getting the coach, hiring people to do jobs that I don't need to be doing. There was a time when my husband and I were starting another business, and life was really, really crazy. So I did utilize a buyer's agent for that. And that is something that I still kind of toy with, because that freed up a lot of my time. I still was the agent to write up contracts and deal with all the negotiations, but just having someone else show the properties was very beneficial at the time.
That's actually where I was going to go too. And I've talked to a lot of team leaders and top producers that, putting myself in those exact same shoes, because I was in that spot too. Training new agents to work with you and potentially be on your team. Maybe it's just a mentorship. You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
But I feel like I hear this conversation from top producers all the time about how frustrating it is and just how difficult it is in the beginning. And circling back to the point you made at the very beginning of this podcast, which is putting value out there, knowing that it may not come back immediately. I think that was one of the biggest aha moments for me with some of the new agents that have been on my team that are now on my team for 2+ years, 3+ years, was that first 6 months was like, oh my gosh, how can I possibly keep doing this?
Right.
What am I, and it wasn't, what am I doing wrong? It was just, I don't know if I have time for this and my own business.
Yes.
And it was almost exactly at that 6-month point that you saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was almost a flip where it was, okay, this person is incredibly valuable to my team. I poured out a lot to teach them and help them grow and pull them along, and now they are running with it, helping me on my own deals, being a buyer's agent or helping my own clients when I can't pick up the phone. Night and day difference, and it doesn't feel like that in the first 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I would say too, like, if you are a new agent, like, don't be afraid to reach out to agents that you see that are super busy and be willing to help them. Say, hey, I could show a house for you. I can hold an open house. Like, get involved, ask the questions. What's the saying about, get at the table, get in the room where you want to be, like where you see other people who are successful, like, get in that room with them. Right. So don't be afraid to ask questions and reach out.
I can't remember who it was that said this when I was starting out, and it's a million people have said it, but offer to do things for free.
Yes.
And that kind of goes back to the delayed gratification piece. But if you can, it's worth it. If you can find a top producer that's going to let you, even if they are busy and grumpy and they don't really want to spend all that much time talking to you on the phone, if they at least let you shadow them, you're going to absorb what they say, what they do, how they do things. You're going to see tips and tricks.
Yes.
And if you offer to help them for free, likely they're going to see how valuable you are too. And
absolutely,
and it's going to become something more than what you thought.
I couldn't agree more. And again, just being willing to put in the work. Right. Because this industry, it may look easy, but it is not easy. And there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that you wouldn't know. And kind of like another thing that helped me scale my business was running it as a business. So as a new agent, make sure you kind of got, this may be off topic a little bit, but it just made me think of it like a bank account, a business bank account, setting yourself up for success, so you don't spend your whole commission check, and then at the end of the year, you now have to pay the government your, taxes, and you have no money. So again, just like, this isn't a hobby, or maybe it is, but if you don't want it to be a hobby, like, figure out how to act like a business owner and run it like a business. Know your expenses, know your, where do you want to be at the end of the year? Yeah,
that's a really good tip. And I think, just bouncing off that, I think the two biggest tips that someone taught me when I was kind of first starting to level up, and for some reason I didn't think about it, but it was really simple and it made my life so much easier. First was the LLC, learning how to pay yourself a salary, even if that's $1,500 a month. Yep. And that's pretty low, but paying yourself a salary out of your LLC so that the rest goes into building. Yes. To your point about don't spend your whole commission check. Yep. The other tip that I think is really interesting that for some reason I didn't connect the dots on, and I've had other conversations with people, this has been really impactful, is if you have savings accounts set up that are high yield, when you get a commission check, drop 7% of that into a marketing fund, or drop 5% of that into a gifts fund for your clients. It's really hard in the beginning to say, okay, I'm going to go spend $2,000 on quarterly gifts for my clients or Christmas gifts for my clients, and I have 60 clients and I got to send it all to them.
Yep.
It's a lot easier when you save 7% every couple deals. And
yeah, I agree. And again, being willing, I want to say that I feel like I had a conversation with Christy right out of the gate about, setting back a certain amount from each commission check just for marketing,
right?
Just for putting it back into your business, because you have to spend money to make money. And that's scary, but you can't sell out of an empty cart. So you got to spend money to make money.
Right. And if 7% seems like too much, start with 3%.
Yeah, just do something.
All of a sudden you've got a couple $100 in there, and it makes it easier to,
Yes.
I thought that was really, it was just an uphill battle every quarter when I looked to go and do client gifts or spend money on something. It was tough. Did you have something else?
Nope.
I think we're getting to the time limit. So this was the last thing I wanted to touch on. Hearing from a top agent in a really turbulent time in our marketplace, kind of setting the stage. Going into the year, felt a lot more balanced. I think everyone was feeling optimistic, especially compared to the year before, where we're seeing more inventory. We're seeing more balance in terms of buyers having less competition, sellers taking a little bit longer to sell. Now we're 3 months into the year. I think we're still optimistic that that's going to be the case, but the stock market's crashing.
Yes.
Sellers in Omaha are still selling quickly. We were actually just ranked the hottest real estate market in the nation.
Amazing.
But maybe just give us your thoughts generally on the market right now, from a buyer standpoint, from a seller standpoint, and taking it one step further. We're in Omaha. Give us your thoughts as we kind of branch out to what does the rest of the state look like if we can get that far.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, I'm optimistic. I think as we see interest rates, hopefully drop and continue to drop, no crystal ball, but more buyers will come into the market again. We still have low inventory. So anytime you've got more buyers coming in and, not as many sellers selling, you're going to run into, you're going to see multiple offers. You're going to see things selling quickly. But again, I think it goes back to, if you're representing a seller, you got to price the house right. Right. Even in a hot market, if it's not priced right, it's still not going to sell. So just kind of being really aware of market value, doing your CMA and doing your research on that. For buyers, I think they're taking their time a little bit. They are looking at multiple houses. The market is, I would say, it feels a little bit slower than it has in the past, which that's okay. But it's nice that buyers are able to take their time a little bit and not be forced and rushed into a major life decision in 2 hours. Right.
And a message to buyers, I think, too, is, and maybe you can comment on this, the homes that are perfectly fixed up and have clearly have a little bit of fix and flip in them, whether that's a home that someone's lived in for a couple of years and then repainted everything, redone the carpets, painted kitchen cabinets. If it's done really nicely, it's going to sell quickly.
Absolutely.
So if you're a buyer, and that's okay, but if you're a buyer, just know that those are going to have multiple offers. Stick to your monthly budget.
Yes.
Work with an awesome lender, and stay the course.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's huge. Don't get in over your head as a buyer. No one wants to be house poor. I don't want any of my clients to be house poor. I don't want the phone call in 6 months that you can't afford the house and you need to sell it, because that's not a good position to be in. Right. So definitely, know your budget and stick to that. You'll find a house. Right. I don't think I've had any buyers, not find a house yet.
That's a simple way of saying it, but that's a good point. I haven't either, and it's it feels stressful for the buyer in the moment. Yes. You've been looking for 2 months, but how many examples can you give where a buyer found a house that was maybe under contract, fell out of contract, listed again, you got in right away and got it.
Yeah.
Or a house on Zillow that had crappy pictures, you went and saw it anyway, turned out to be a great opportunity.
So it always seems like it works out how it's supposed to in the end. Like the right house finds the right buyer.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Again, it's stressful in the moment, but you just have to kind of stick with it and know that it'll work out.
Right. Interest rates, even if they don't drop again this year, what's your message to buyers?
I mean, I feel like I just told a family member this, like, hop in. Like, I don't foresee the housing market changing drastically over the next year, 2 years. Like, I don't think house prices are going to go down tremendously, or, you know, I don't feel like the market's going to change enough that if you wait, you're going to get a better deal.
Right.
So if you are in the market to buy, if this is the time in your life where you need to buy a house, you need to get a bigger house, maybe you need to downsize, like, do what you need to do according to you and your life. Like, don't try and time the market.
Right.
Just figure out what you need for you and your family, if you have a family, and make the move. Like, don't time the market, because it's not going to help you out, I don't think.
I feel like this is a revolving conversation that happens almost on a weekly basis, probably daily for you. But it does seem like a really stressful decision for a buyer that's thinking about jumping into the market. I think dumbing it down with these 2 points is really important. First, are you going to be in the house for 3 to 5 years? Mm-hmm. If you are, that's probably a given, that just jump into the market. Because if the market crashes, would you rather be in your apartment where rent continues to rise at 15% a year?
Yes.
Or in your house where your monthly payment is set, you have a house, probably bigger than your apartment, probably has a yard, all these different things. The second point is interest rates are constantly changing. They could go up, in which case you bought at the right time because you have a lower interest rate. They could be lower in 6 months or 12 months, in which case refinance. Yeah. So the 3 to 5 years has really been a big comment for our team when we talk to buyers. But the interest rate point too is just something that you should not focus on when you're buying a house. I
totally agree. Don't focus on that. Focus on what you need in this stage of your life.
Right.
And again, to your point, if you're going to be if you plan to stay somewhere 3 to 5 years, like, do it. Right. If you know you're only going to be in the house for a year, let's have a different conversation.
Exactly. Well, closing notes here, because I think the market, overall, we are optimistic. I am, at least. It sounds like you have the same sentiment, where regardless of what happens in the stock market, in the current election cycle, and the current state of our nation, we're still so low in inventory that it would be nearly impossible to have an immediate change in the housing market. Right. Maybe over 2 years, but it's going to be really tough to see any change now. But your message as a closing point to sellers, we've kind of talked to buyers, but to sellers, what is it about you and your business or your team that you can give them trust and confidence in what you do, especially in a time we're heading into the spring market where most sellers come out of the woodworks and say, I'm ready to list my house. I don't know if you have any notes to sellers in this market. Yeah,
I would just say 15 years of experience, I think, goes a long way. Just kind of knowing and maybe foreseeing what could happen, different scenarios, and being able to walk people through those scenarios, I think is a great benefit. If you're maybe not as seasoned, you don't realize, that maybe a seller could take an offer that has a contingency, and you tell the buyer they have to have a 48-hour first right. Some people may not even know what that is. So again, just understanding sellers' options and being able to walk them through that. So, and knowing that I'm staying in contact with you, I'm going to show up when I say I'm going to show up, I'm going to work hard. I think that sets kind of me and my team apart. And knowing that we're going to do what we feel and what you need, we're going to help you make the right decisions. And it's not about just getting to the closing table for us. It's helping sellers make the right decisions and help them net the most money on their house.
Working in a business where you have 98% referral business, put that in perspective, out of 100 deals, 98 of those are people calling you back or calling you and saying, hey, I have this person that I know that's selling their house. You did such an awesome job for us that I want you to meet them. That in and of itself is trust.
Yes.
Being alluded to your sellers.
Yeah.
So
if I wasn't doing a good job, I don't think people would call me back.
I don't think so.
So, and I think too, as a new agent, or maybe even agent that's been in it for a while, we talk a lot about where the market is going and interest rates and what's going on in the world. And I don't watch the news. I don't, because it brings me down. So I try not to subscribe to things that are negative in my life. And I just kind of keep my head down. I do the things that I need to do in my business every day, and it's worked out for me. So try not to get too caught up in what's going on in the world. Just do the things you need to do. Easy peasy.
I think that's an awesome closing point, which especially for new agents, and the same exact magnitude for agents that are in the business for 3 to 5 years, but control what you can control.
Yes.
And that goes back to the consistency piece that we talked about. If you have a marketing tool or marketing engine that you're using, it has to be consistent. If you're not doing it for 6+ months, it's not going to work. And just control what you can control.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good talking with you. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll check back in 6 months and see if we were right about the housing market, but we'll see where interest rates go.
I'm excited for that. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks for being on.